Did you say that sleep state or dreamless sleep is the pure state of self? If not, could you please clarify a bit more what you said about dreamless sleep state? Alternatively, if you meant sleep to be the pure state of self, I'm not sure if Bhagavan has said so. Bhagavan has said ego, which is I am so and so individuality, is present in all three states. Let me read that again. Bhagavan has said ego as I am so and so individuality is present in all three states. For example, in talk number 17. My observations on this are as follows. In deep sleep, ego is not in a manifested form, that's all. That is why it is a state of nescience. It is a state of unmanifested vasanas or inclinations, which leads back to the wakeful state to manifest again.
In Advaita philosophy, there are many different explanations have been given. Different explanations have been given to suit different needs, because not everyone is at the same level of maturity. So not everyone is ready to accept the deeper explanations. So what you have said here in this question, that is more or less what is the most popular understanding about sleep. That is generally in most Advaitic texts, they explain, but in waking state, we identify ourselves with the gross body. In sleep, in dream, we identify ourselves with the subtle body. And in sleep, what remains is just the causal body, which is the Anandamaya kosha. This is the usual explanation that is given. Bhagavan has gone deeper than this. Though sometimes Bhagavan used to answer questions, because many people were coming from this perspective, so sometimes Bhagavan answered questions from that perspective. But Bhagavan's core teachings go much deeper than this. Firstly, Bhagavan says there is no difference between waking and dream. So this distinction between the gross body in waking and the subtle body in dream, that distinction is not valid in view of Bhagavan's deeper teachings. If waking and dream are the same, then if this is a dream, our present body is just a mental projection, as is our dream body. Bhagavan often used to say, just like you now are aware of yourself as a physical body, dream, a body that you're aware of, also seems to be physical. While dreaming, we seem to be awake, and everything that we experience in dream seems to be as real as everything that we experience now. So Bhagavan didn't accept that distinction between waking and dream. According to Bhagavan, they are both only dreams. And Bhagavan also said the term body includes all the five sheaths. He says in verse 5 of Uladu Napadu, Uru Panchakosa Uru. That the body is a form composed of a form of five sheaths. Therefore, all five are included in the term body. So this is actually our experience. We never experience any of these five sheaths without experiencing all the other ones. Now we experience ourselves as a physical body, but we never experience ourselves as a dead body. So it's always a living body. So there's always the Annamaya kosha and Pranamaya kosha. We also never experience a sleeping body as I. It's always an awake body. And when we're awake, there's also the Manamaya kosha, the grosser aspects of the mind, the Vijnanamaya kosha, the buddhi or intellect, and the Anandamaya kosha, which is the chittam or will. That is the collection of all the vasanas. We are aware of all these as one package. All these together make up the body or person that we seem to be. So we are aware of ourselves as all of these. In sleep, the reason it is said in many ancient texts that in sleep vakarana sarira remains, vakarana sarira means the anandamaya kosha, another name for which is chittam, that is manas, buddhi, chittam and ahankaram. Anandamaya, manas corresponds to manamaya kosha, buddhi with vijnanamaya kosha, chittam with anandamaya kosha, and ahankara with that I which identifies all of these as itself. So, so ahankara is not one of the 5 sheaths, but the other 3 antakaranas are 3 of the 5 sheaths. So it is said that the karana sarira remains, that is all the vasanas remain in a seed form in sleep. That is the conventional explanation. Why that explanation is given? Because generally people want everything to be explained. If ego doesn't, they want to know why we wake up from sleep again. Why do we rise from sleep? And simple explanation, because all the vasanas are there in seed form, they compel you to rise. The problem is, all these 5 sheaths are just an appearance. So you mention here, you talk about ego in an unmanifested form. But manifestation means appearance. When an appearance doesn't appear, it doesn't exist at all. Ego exists only as an appearance. So when it's not appearing, it doesn't exist. So there is no ego in sleep. If the vasanas are all the ego's desires, since the desires cannot exist without ego, if the vasanas exist in sleep, ego must also exist there. So we begin to get things complicated. Bhagavan has simplified it and said in sleep there is no ego, therefore there are no vasanas, there's nothing. Why then we wake up? Bhagavan said that's an invalid question. Why? People often used to ask Bhagavan, why is there Maya? Why did ego come into existence? Bhagavan said, that question is like asking, how was the son of a barren woman born? But there's no such thing as the son of a barren woman. The son of a barren woman is a logical impossibility, because if a woman is barren, she has no son. If she has a son, she's not barren. So there's no such thing as a barren woman. Likewise, there's no such thing as ego. Ego is a mere appearance. That asking how this appearance came into existence, according to Bhagavan, is not valid, because the question, why and how are invalid questions as far as ego or Maya is concerned. Maya is actually nothing but ego. Why or how are invalid questions. The only valid questions are who or what. If we investigate what this ego is, who am I, we find there's no such thing. When there's no such thing, the questions how or why become redundant. So so Bhagavan used to say, rather than inquiring how ego came into existence or why ego came into existence, first see where the ego has come into existence. If you can find that ego, bring it to me. Then we can find out how it came into existence. But first find it. If you search for it, Tedina lotum pidikon. If sought, it takes flight. So there is no such thing as ego. Ego is a mere appearance. Egos, we seem to rise and stand as ego so long as we are looking away from ourselves, so long as we're attending to anything other than ourselves. When we look back at ourselves to see, who am I? Who is this ego? Ego subsides and dissolves back into its source. So there's no need for us to ask how ego originally came into existence. Since there's no need to ask why ego originally came into existence, since there is actually no way of explaining how ego came into existence, because it never came into existence. For the same reason, there's no way of explaining how ego comes out of sleep. Because if we investigate ego, we find that it has never come out of sleep. We have always been eternally in the state of sleep. So, as I say, sometimes Bhagavan used to give explanations according to because in Advaita, different levels of explanation have been given. For example, Bhagavan very clearly taught Drishti Shrishti Vada. That is, that according to Bhagavan, this whole world, the waking state is just a dream. So whatever we perceive doesn't exist independent of our perception of it. That is the meaning of Drishti Shrishti Vada. The appearance of a world is created by our perceiving it. Because where we project this world, just like we project a world in dream, where do we project it? We project it within our own awareness. That is the mind's mental, within our mind space, we project this. So it doesn't exist outside the mind space. So the world seems to exist only so long as we perceive it. It doesn't actually exist. That's why Bhagavan said there's no world, there's no body or world in sleep. So this is a very deep and radical explanation. The vast majority of Advaitins, both past and present, are not willing to accept this. They prefer to have some kind of Shrishti Drishti Vada. That is, they make a distinction between avidya and maya. And they say avidya is for jiva and maya is for God. And through God's power of maya, he's created this world. So whether the jiva is seeing the world or not, the world still exists. And there are many jivas. So when one jiva isn't seeing it, other jivas are seeing it. According to Bhagavan, there's only one jiva, one ego. When we rise as ego, we see this world. In a dream, how many, while we're dreaming, there seem to be so many people in the dream. And because we mistake ourselves to be a person in the dream, in other words, because we mistake ego to be a person in the dream, we mistake all the other persons to be egos. And it appears to us in a dream that all the other people are seeing the world just as we are. And if we ask the other people, do you see the world just like I do? They say, yes, of course I do. And do you see this world even when I go to sleep? Yes, of course we see the world when you go to sleep. But when we wake up, we realize the whole thing was our mental projection. So this is what Bhagavan has taught us. Many people were, even those who came to Bhagavan, many were not ready to accept this. So Bhagavan often talked as if God had created the world. For example, for people who wanted to reform the world or to solve all the injustices in the world or whatever, Bhagavan said, he who has created the world knows how to take care of it. Leave it all to him. Surrender the burden to him. That is, Bhagavan is coming down to a lower level, he's taking a more superficial level of explanation, because that is what is appropriate for the mentality of those people. But for those like Shiva Prakasham Pillai and Murugan, who came to Bhagavan just to know the truth as it is, Bhagavan very clearly taught Drishti Shrishti Vada. The world, in Nana, Bhagavan says, just like the spider projects the web from within itself and again withdraws it back into itself, the mind projects this world and again withdraws it back in. When mind rises, world appears. When mind doesn't rise, there's no world. So Bhagavan's teachings go far deeper. Bhagavan gives us a far deeper and also far simpler and clearer explanations than are generally given in older texts. Drishti Shrishti Vada is implied even in writings of Shankara and Gaudapada, because often they in many places they say, but there's no difference between waking and dream. But how this is interpreted by many people, they're not saying that the waking state is actually a dream, but that it is like a dream. Dream is just an analogy they're using. So many people who read Shankara or Gaudapada, they interpret differently. They take it, but they're not actually saying that waking and dream are the same. But if we read carefully, what they are saying that there's no distinction between waking and dream. So if that is the case, that implies if the waking state is just a dream, that implies drishti shrishti vada. So though it wasn't explicitly stated by them, it's implied by them. But they give many different levels of explanation, just like Bhagavan gave many different levels of explanation to suit the needs of people. There's no point in telling someone that this world is just a dream if they're not willing to accept that. So in Advaita, there are many different levels of explanation. So this explanation about the three states corresponding to three bodies is appropriate for people at a certain level, but Bhagavan has asked us to go deeper. So for those who take, those explanations but imply, or state that in sleep the karana sarira remains, and that's what causes us to wake up in. They say that they say that sleep is a state of darkness, of nescience. But according to Bhagavan, sleep is our pure state. It's a state of pure awareness, because all problems exist only in waking and dream. In waking and dream, we rise as ego, and when we rise, and as Bhagavan says in verse 26 of Volvidnavdu, ahande undayin anatum undahum. If ego comes into existence, everything comes into existence. Ahande indrail indra anatum. If ego doesn't exist, everything doesn't exist. So the state in which ego rises and everything exists, seems to exist at least, are waking and dream. The state in which ego doesn't rise and therefore nothing else appears is sleep. So according to Bhagavan, sleep is a state of pure awareness. What shines in sleep is just our real nature, what we actually are. There's another good reason for viewing it in this way. That is, the main purpose of Avastatrayaivu, of analysis of the three states, is to convince us that we are nothing but pure awareness. That's the whole aim of it. That is, now we seem to be this physical body, this bundle of five sheaths. But we can't be this particular body because we cannot be anything. If this body were ourself, we couldn't be aware of ourselves without being aware of this body. But in dream, we're aware of ourselves without being aware of this body. Because in dream, we experience some other body as ourselves. Likewise, we cannot be that dream body because now we're aware of ourselves without being aware of that dream body. The mind seems to be the same in both waking and dream. So why shouldn't we be the mind? Because in sleep, there is no mind. So we are aware of ourselves in sleep without being aware of this mind or ego. So that's why logically we can arrive at the conclusion that we are not anything that we seem to be now. We are just pure awareness. If we say the karana sarira exists in sleep, then ego must also exist there, at least in a seed form. If ego exists there, then why should we not infer, therefore, that ego in seed form is what I actually am? How can we infer that we are pure awareness unless we accept that sleep is a state of pure awareness? Bhagavan often used to say, do not believe what you do not know. So Bhagavan analyzed our own experience to convince us that we are not any of these five sheaths. We are just pure awareness. Because only when we are convinced of that, will we be able to investigate ourselves properly. Because so long as we take ourselves to be any of the five sheaths, we will be, these five sheaths are phenomena that appear and disappear. They appear in waking and dream, they disappear in sleep. If we take any phenomena to be ourselves, when we try to investigate ourselves, we won't be attending to ourselves, we'll be attending to whatever we take to be ourselves. So the reason for this analysis of the three states, the reason for neti, this whole analysis is the basis that lays the foundation for vichara, for self-investigation. Because only if we understand that we are not anything that appears or disappears, we are just that pure awareness which is the background, the screen on which all things appear and disappear, only if we are convinced of that, will our attention not be, will we not allow our attention to go here or there on objects? We will be going deep, will we go deep within? Otherwise we'll be taking this feeling or that feeling to be, is this I or is that I? What I is just pure awareness. That is the Arivanan, as Bhagavan said. Jnanamam tane me. Oneself, which is awareness alone, is real. Nanavam jnanam ajnanamam. Awareness of multiplicity is ignorance. So, according to Bhagavan, sleep is our pure state. The only defect in sleep is that we come out of it. We rise as ego from sleep. But that is not a defect in sleep. It's only when we rise that we say it's a defect. So it's only from the perspective of ourself as ego in waking and dream that sleep seems to be a temporary state and therefore seems to be defective. And also because what we were aware of in sleep is pure awareness, our real nature. If we could remember what we were aware of in sleep, we would be aware of ourselves as such now. What we were in sleep, we were aware of ourselves as pure awareness. We cannot remember that now because now we mistake ourselves to be something else. So it's our present self-forgetfulness, our present self-ignorance, our present identification of ourselves with this body, which obscures our memory of what we experienced in sleep. We know that in sleep, yes, I slept. We know that we existed in sleep. We know that we were. We don't know what we were. Why? Because now we know that we are. I know I am, but I don't know what I am. So because now we are ignorant of what we are, if we're ignorant of what we are now, we are equally ignorant of what we were in sleep, which was pure awareness. So the seeming ignorance of sleep is actually our present ignorance, makes it seem to us that sleep was a state of ignorance. According to Bhagavan, sleep is a state of pure awareness. It's our real state. Sadhu Om often used to give a nice analogy. He said, if you've got a vast open space, if you erect two walls in that open space, those two walls will divide the open space seemingly into three spaces. But the two walls, in this case, are the body we identify as I in waking and body we identify as I in dream. That creates the two states of waking and dream. But there's also a third one, that's sleep. So sleep is the gap between successive states of waking and dream. Why sleep is necessary? Because when we rise in waking and dream, we're expending energy. To project this world and to be active in waking and dream requires energy. So we become tired. We therefore need to, metaphorically speaking, recharge our batteries. How to recharge our batteries? Only by going back to that state, that pure state, the state of pure awareness, can we recharge our batteries, so to speak, and arise again. But that, when I say recharge our batteries, I'm not implying that we exist in sleep recharging our batteries. By our subsiding completely back into our source, by dissolving completely into our source, ego is non-existent in sleep. Bhagavan has indicated very, very clearly. For example, in the first paragraph of Nana, what he says is, I won't, that's in the first sentence, I'll just read one clause. Manamatra nidrayal dinum anubhavikum tan subhavamana achukate adeya tanne tan aridal vendam. That is, in order to know that, in order to know that happiness, which is one's own nature, which one experiences daily in sleep, which is devoid of mind, oneself knowing oneself is necessary. There what he says is, firstly he says happiness is our own nature. Secondly, he says we experience it daily in sleep. How could we experience happiness daily in sleep if we weren't aware of it? Experience requires awareness. So, and what is the happiness that we experience in sleep? He says, achukate. That's referring to a sukham he mentions in the first clause, which is sakala jivagalum dukumembadindri epodum sukhamai irka virambadalam. That is, since all sentient beings want to be always happy without what is called misery. Therefore, what he refers to here as achukate is that unalloyed happiness, happiness that is completely devoid of misery. That is our real nature. That's a tansubhavamana achukate, that happiness which is our real nature. Nidrail dinamanubhavikam. We experience it daily in sleep. And in sleep, he said, manamatra. Sleep is devoid of mind. Devoid of mind means here manam doesn't just mean the manamaya kosha. It means, here Bhagavan is referring to ego as manam. In sleep, there is no mind. And there is no ego. Because there is no ego, therefore there are none of the 5 sheaths. This is one place where Bhagavan very explicitly says that there's no mind, that implies that there's no ego in sleep. He says it even, he also says it very clearly in verse 21 of Upadeshundya. Nanatra tuko, nanatra, oh, sorry, nanenam sopporul, Armadunalome, nanatra tukatum undipara, namadimme nikatal undipara. That what he refers to as that is what he mentioned in the previous verse, which is the pure awareness that appears as I am I. That is at all times the porul, that is the substance or true import of a world called I. Why? Nanatra tukutum undipara, namadimme nikatal undipara. Because of the exclusion of our non-existence, even in sleep, which is devoid of I. What I is, sleep is devoid of which I? Our real nature is there in sleep. The I that is absent in sleep is ego. So here he very, very clearly implies that ego is absent in sleep. So though in the passage you referred to in talks, it does seem that Bhagavan was saying, what is it? That's in towards the end of section 17 of talks. What Bhagavan is recorded to have said, this question is asked because the name and form are perceived. These are perceptions consequent on the identification of the ego with the gross body. If ego identifies itself with the subtle mind, as in dream, the perceptions are subtle also. Here Bhagavan seems to be making a distinction. I don't know how accurately this is recorded, but it seems, if this is what Bhagavan said, he's creating a distinction here between dream and waking, which is a distinction that he denied very clearly in so many other places. And then he goes on to say, but in sleep there are no perceptions. Was not the ego still, was there not the ego still? As if ego still exists in sleep. Unless it was, there cannot be memory of having slept. I think this portion is, it has not, what Bhagavan said has not been clearly recorded here. This is very confusing, this portion. It goes, sometimes Bhagavan did give, as I say, he gave explanations at different levels, but I don't believe Bhagavan ever said ego exists in sleep. He may have said I exist in sleep, but that I that exists in sleep is our real nature, not ego. Because Bhagavan has clearly said, ego is nothing but a false awareness, I am this body. In sleep, we are not aware of ourselves as I am this body. And he says, when ego comes into existence, everything comes into existence, but nothing exists in sleep. So I find it very difficult to believe that Bhagavan would have said this. I think what Bhagavan said, Munagala, the Munakala Venkataramaya, who recorded talks, he didn't write it down then and there. He He was in the hall, he was often interpreting for Bhagavan, and afterwards he went back to his room and he wrote down what he remembered. If you, after this conversation, after we've had this discussion, if we weren't recording it, if you were to go back and write down all that was said, you would only be able to write down as much as you remembered, and you would remember only as much as you understood. So if you had misunderstood anything I said, you would record your misunderstanding when recording. So talks is full of, there's so many places, there are nice ideas in talks, but a lot of confusion is also there. Because that is the hallmark of Bhagavan is simplicity and clarity. That is missing in so many places in talks. The lack of clarity and lack of simplicity. Okay, sometimes Bhagavan may give more complicated explanations if scholars came to him and asked technical questions. Sometimes his answers may seem to, but generally Bhagavan's answers were extremely simple. And whether they were, even when they were, whether they were extremely simple as usual, or even when they became a little bit more complicated, Bhagavan was always crystal clear. Clarity is the whole, Bhagavan is the very embodiment of clarity. So whatever Bhagavan said was very clear. In talks we find so many unclear passages. We cannot accept these as all being what Bhagavan said. It's what the recorder of talks understood according to his own, all that he had read, and so we can't take what is said in talks to be reliable. You pointed out some verses in Guru Vacha Kavai, specifically verses, I think it was 455 to 462, wasn't it? It's a chapter on sleep. It's chapter 76, sleep, 455.
Yeah, 455 to 462.
Yes, there Bhagavan has very, very clearly indicated that sleep is our pure state, thereby implying there's no ego there. He also has said it very clearly in Maharshi's Gospel, in the first chapter of Maharshi's Gospel. He says, sleep is not ignorance. Page 9 of Maharshi's Gospel. Sleep is not ignorance, it's one's pure state. Wakefulness is not knowledge, it is ignorance. There is full awareness in sleep and total ignorance in waking. And that same, what is in Maharshi's Gospel, actually is also recorded in talks. In talks, in section 313 of talks, towards the end of 313, he's replying to some person called Mr. Greenless. And there, almost exactly, very similar wording is there. So Bhagavan's core teaching is that sleep is a state of pure, is our pure state. So, are there any? You were earlier. You were mentioning some other ideas that you were trying to reconcile.
Yeah, I was thinking partially, Michael, the confusion could be because we all, as you said, we are firmly believing ourselves to be an individual.
Yes.
With our own personality and mind and body, making it very unique.
Yes.
And we believe that there are other individuals in this world, which is part of the world, and hence that separation is ingrained in us, right?
Yes.
So for such a mind, it is only natural that it will first think that waking is the incarnation I have as an individual. And within that, I end up sleeping every day.
Yes.
In a 24-hour cycle, I go to sleep.
Yes.
And within the sleep, I get a dream in which I take a dream incarnation and see the dream world and things like that. So the hierarchy of the structure as a common individuality believing person, which I'm used to, is waking is the parent state in which I get into sleep which is a subordinate state, in which I get into dream.
Yes.
So hence our comparison is always from a waking state's perspective, and which is what clearly comes out in the Guruvacha Kovai 457, I think, which is what I refer to. 455 through 462 analyzes these completely and threadbare, and that is Bhagavan's words. So we have to take that as the solid, authentic source for
Yes.
what Bhagavan taught, right? So what comes out very clearly is our perspective is so firmly from the waking state as the firm, real knowledge state. From that perspective, we keep declaring sleep to be a state of total ignorance and darkness.
Yes.
Bhagavan refers to the sleep state as the complete pure state with nothing else projecting. There is no viksheba, there is no avarana. It is
Yes.
the pure state of sleep. The sleep he refers to is the Maya ascribed reality where the ignorance seems to be there, but it is not really ignorant, right? So the
Yes.
self pretty much self-effulgent all the time exists as the state of knowledge, where
Yes.
there is no feeling of even I, right?
Yes.
So in that, there seems to be a movement which results in the Maya ignorance to be there, or appear to be there. Within that, there seems to be a piece of that ignorance which projects itself as so and so in the waking time.
Yeah.
The same piece of that ignorance which projects itself as a waking time also projects itself as the dream time. The reason I'm saying it this way is because if you notice, we don't go to dream directly from the waking state.
That is not necessarily
We
true.
go to the dream state unless you're talking about daydreaming, right?
No, no,
In which
even
case we
we
imagine
often,
ourselves to be a
if we often in the waking state, we slip directly into dream. We forget the waking. Okay, in a sense, we're in sleep, in the sense that we forget our waking self, but we don't have to fall asleep and then go into dream. We often go straight into dream.
I
If you're,
don't know if that anybody experiences that. See, if you
I
think
think,
about the normal process, we tend to sleep first, and then within the sleep, we get dreams. Unless
not,
we are talking about daydream, talking about the regular sleep which we all experience and regular dreams which we all experience while sleeping. So it is the sleep which is the fundamental thing from where we slip out into the waking state or we slip out to the dream state. So we
yeah,
may have multiple dreams during the sleep, one showing us ourselves as running, because of we are fearing somebody. In another state, we may be an emperor ruling a kingdom. Both dreams may happen within the same sleep.
yeah,
And when the sleep is over, we wake up to be in another wakeful dream. So
yes,
the underlying state is sleep, and Bhagavan is referring to that underlying state, which is the eternal sleep of ignorance, a seemingly eternal sleep of ignorance, from where we get into a waking state, come back to that sleep, go back to the dreaming state, then come back to the sleep, go back to the waking state. And there seems to be continuity in waking state only in the waking state. So
yes,
within the waking state, we feel, oh, you know what? This continues to be my incarnation or my individuality, even after I slept and after I dreamt, I came back to this reality. But
yes,
that thought is one of the waking state. So what I ended up doing is to break that firm understanding. I put this in a picture form, right, for my own understanding. Again,
yes,
pictures are not infallible, right? They also try to communicate the reality in some form and shape. So
yes,
it doesn't explain completely. Even Bhagavan's words is being questioned by us so much, and Bhagavan and Shankaracharya are probably the best in expressing these in words, and they are even debating that. So our own recording in words and pictures is not going to be definitely accurate. But I wanted to see how it evolves for myself to be more clear. So can I share the screen and show you something?
yes, yes, certainly.
I wanted to show you this PowerPoint slide which I made. Are you able to see the white field now?
Yes.
white,
Yes.
white PowerPoint slide.
Yes.
This is still under work in progress, so it's not completely created yet. So it's in
Yes.
work in progress. But I wanted to convey the idea to you and see if this kind of conveys what we are trying to convey through several words. So this is the apparent manifestation of self as a single ego. I'm specifically saying Eka Jivatvam
Yes.
and its corresponding world, right?
Yes. Yes.
And the current state of everything being white, everything being pure white, except for the square thing, rectangle thing. I don't know why it came up. I think that's a PowerPoint problem which I have not understood. I will overcome that soon. But ignore that black box in between. It was supposedly the whole thing should be white, and that is the ajata state where there is no creation, right?
Yes.
So I'm hitting the next key now. On the right side, you will see that what I said is what is being explained. The whole white space is self-effulgence. That is the space of knowledge, which is complete pure white.
Yes.
Then as I do this, there is a sheath of black line going in there, rectangle going in there, which is the apparent illusory power or maya or darkness of ignorance. So there seems to be a movement in self which creates an apparent illusory power, which in turn projects. If you see the small rectangle encircled
Yes.
by white lines, that is the portion of Maya, which is the deep sleep we are talking about. It's seemingly dark, but it is part of the self, fulgent self, which projects the waking state. In the bottom, if you see, the
Mhm.
apparent arising of the waking state ego, along with its body and mind and its world, happens during waking. And then when the waking time is over, in the night, it goes back to the top, which is the sleeping state, which is the pure sleeping state we are referring to. Now, this white circle is something which I have drawn around, just to show that the sleep which we are referring to is a part of the eternal sleep or the Maya, which is nothing but self. Self's power, that is anirvachaniya power, as they call it, unexplicable power within self, is what is called Maya, which in experience seems to be there, but on analysis and reasoning can be found to be not there. That is what the definition of Maya is, anyway, right?
Yes.
It's experienced to be there. Like, for example, the world is experienced to be real. We all live in this. So it seems to be there. But on analysis and reasoning, we find that actually there is nothing like a world other than what we have concocted within our mind, right? There is no proof of world's existence other than what our mind tells us. So that is what Maya's definition. So within the Maya, which is the dark nescience, in our opinion, from the waking state perspective, we are in that sleeping state, ignorant state. We rise up as a waking ego, again as an ignorant ego, as an individual, and then we also wake up into a dream state as an ignorant dream body with its own world, body and mind and world, all incorporated within it. So which means while I am there as a body, the other bodies with their own seeming mind and intelligence and reasoning capacity and all that are all concocted by me, not necessarily by my body, but my projection as a mind and a body has also resulted in the projection of the world along with its many sentient beings as well as insentient beings. So this is what உள்ளது நாற்பது, I think second verse or third verse explains as to how mind and world rise together and subside together in sleep,
Verse
right?
7.
So this is what I attempted to do. And then when we talk about multiple lives, I said the same thing repeats from another illusory rectangular box within the illusory Maya sheath, which is part of self. So this basically at death, what we call as death, this complete thing is removed, and then another apparent rectangular box of ignorance comes up, give us another incarnation. So in this case, if you notice, we are not into a hierarchy of waking state as the parent state within which we dream, within which we sleep, which is what we are experiencing now. So we are believing that us to be an individual, and then we are going through a sleep, and then we are going through a dream, and And then we are assessing those states from this point of view. And that is why the confusion.
Right, okay. But your implication seems to be that Maya still exists in sleep. This is actually...
No, the implication here is only that which is present during sleep is present even during the waking and the dream time.
Yes, yes.
But the person who's expressing that in words, saying that I slept very well, believes firmly that he or she is a person, is an individual, is a unique individual with a personality, with a mind, with a body and all that. But actually the information is coming out from that self, which is the pure self, which was also present in sleep. Yes. So the underlying state of the pure awareness is what is there in all the three states. Just like in sleep, we are saying ego was not present. Even in waking and in dream, the ego is not present.
Yes, but in the difference between sleep and waking and dream is that in waking and dream, we seem to have risen as ego, and consequently we seem to be aware of this world.
Which is what they are saying, that even when the snake seems to appear from the rope,
it's still a rope.
It's still a rope.
Yes.
And even when the light is put on completely and you see only a rope and not a snake, the snake was never there at the time.
Yes.
We can argue till our death that snake was there in a potential form which is not manifested yet. And when the light becomes half and it becomes semi-dark, that's when the snake appears to be very real. Even to the person who knows that it is only the snake rope which is always there, it may appear to be a snake when the partial light is there, right? But even at that time, the snake is not really there. It is only a perceptual mistake.
Yes, the snake, the potential snake doesn't exist in the rope. It exists in the view, it is
onlooker.
Only in the view of the perceiver.
Exactly. So the point is the discussion is happening in the waking state.
Yes.
And the discussion is happening in the waking state where the individual who is discussing is believing that he or she is an individual.
Yes, yes, right, exactly. There are several points about this. Firstly, I think it's I can see what you're trying to do here, but I think it's important to remember that we want to try to keep things as simple as possible because the truth is extremely simple. Bhagavan has made it extremely simple. For example, I mean, in many places, but the one very clear example of the extreme simplicity of Bhagavan's explanation is verse 26 of Udunaptu. If ego comes into existence, everything comes into existence. If ego doesn't exist, everything doesn't exist. Ego itself is everything. Therefore, investigating what it is giving up everything. In this, this is the base teaching of Bhagavan. According to this, I mean, if we apply this to our experience of the three states, ego exists only in waking and dream, not in sleep.
If I don't mind, may I interrupt you on that particular? Because even earlier when you mentioned this, I wanted to mention something in this particular context. Even in this verse 26, if you take Michael, Bhagavan starts the verse itself saying, Agandai undayin.
Yes, if.
Ayin. Ayin is a very key word. He repeats that in multiple verses.
Exactly.
He says, Tanmay unkel. So the point I wanted to highlight here is, Bhagavan never admits arising of ego, even in the waking and the dream state. Vinay mudal ayin, he says.
Yes.
Everybody uses the same ayin or el, which means if the ego were to rise, he doesn't say the ego has risen.
Yes.
He always says if the ego were to rise, then everything else rises. Right. So even in waking state and dream state, the ego has not arisen. if the questioner thinks that he is the ego and they are asking from an ego perspective, he turns around and says, who is asking this question? That's not
No,
a rhetoric question. Bhagavan was not repeating a rhetoric question for 50 years. He was really wanting the person who is asking the question to ask himself, are you the ego? Why are you assuming that
yeah.
you're the ego? The ego never knows.
But Bhagavan said it's only if ego rises that everything rises. So the fact that now we experience waking or dream, that that shows that we have risen as ego. It's only
We
in the
don't. That's what I'm saying. He says the experience you are believing to be true
yeah,
is
exactly,
all
exactly,
inside your mind. So do not admit your experience. What you see is not what the reality is, which is there
exactly.
even in science, right? I mean, we see the earth to be flat, but if we cannot accept the earth is flat, we will not be able to accept earth is flat. It has been proven clearly. Similarly, he says, do not accept what your perception shows you to be true. So he
Yes,
questions that right up front. So we
yes,
cannot say I'm experiencing a world in waking and dream, and hence I need an explanation as to how I can be coming out from the sleep. That is an invalid
yes.
question, like you said, correctly.
Absolutely. But the point is, um, it is only in the view of ourself as ego that these two states of waking and dream seem to exist. It is only in the view of ourself that Maya seems to exist. When ego is absent, there is no Maya. So, though it is often said, the conventional explanation is that in sleep, the arvana, the veiling power, the avarana, remains in sleep. In waking and dream, there's the avarana and the vikshepa, the projecting. According to Bhagavan, if we read Bhagavan's teachings, the implication of Bhagavan's teaching is that in sleep there is no Maya, because there is no ego. It's only when we rise as ego in waking and dream that all these problems are there. So Bhagavan refused to accept that there is any problem with sleep at all. Though, some, though sometimes, according to the context, he may sometimes have given the more superficial explanation that Avarana remains in sleep, but it's only from the perspective of ego in waking and dream that sleep seems to be a state of Avarana. There's actually no veiling in sleep. So sleep is a state of pure awareness. The whole, Bhagavan's whole teaching is centered around ego. Bhagavan is a doctor who has diagnosed what is the root cause of the disease. The root cause of the disease is ego. That's why Bhagavan wasn't much concerned with Bhagavan focused his entire teaching on investigating and surrendering this ego. Because if we surrender and investigate ego, everything else is taken care of.
Yeah,
Whereas,
but I wanted to caution ourselves in this, in the sense that when so much is being talked about ego, one is likely to think that ego is something other than themselves. So, but
no,
the analogy of say snake and rope,
yeah,
we
no,
are actually addressing ourselves by giving this analogy. We are not taking our attention away to an external object of snake and rope and all that. We
yeah,
should look into ourselves, looking into who is snake in this example and who is rope in this example. I,
we,
being the rope, think that I am a snake.
yeah, yeah.
So it should direct ourselves internally as opposed to dissecting the analogy. You see what I mean?
Exactly. The analogy is useful. All analogies are useful only up to a certain point. The whole of Bhagavan teaching, why he's focused his teaching on ego, because if we investigate this ego, what we now seem to be, if we investigate ourselves, ego will dissolve, and along with it, everything else, everything will dissolve along with it. That's why he says, Adalal yadu endranadale overdal yabameno. Therefore, know that investigating what this ego is giving up everything. So how can we surrender ourselves? We want to surrender ourselves completely. Only way is to investigate ourselves.
Exactly. So I think it is very important for, I keep telling myself that, okay, the rope is telling me that I am the rope, but
Yes.
I keep asserting that I am a snake.
Yes. Yes.
Saying it's not. So it's me who is pretending to be a snake while I'm being a rope. So
Yes.
the knowledge of me being the all-pervading supreme self never ceases. Even when I believe that I'm Murthy and I'm
Yes.
talking to someone called Michael sitting at the other end, miles away from me, even at that erroneous time of believing myself to be this form and shape called Murthy, I am actually being the supreme self only.
Yes. Yes.
So I fail to recognize that, and that is why Bhagavan keeps saying, do not take yourself to be so and so, because we take ourselves to be so and so. Whatever teachings he is trying to give us also is being seen in that level only, and that is
Right.
why the problem with this
But,
sleep question, right?
but why do we fail to recognize this? We fail to recognize it so long as we look at anything other than ourselves. If we look at ourselves, then only we will recognize it. But because of our desires and attachments, as ego, our nature is to have so many attachments. Rupatri undam, urupatri nekam. Grasping form, it comes into existence. Grasping form, it stands. Urupatri undu mika ongo, grasping and feeding on form. So this is the nature of ego. The nature of ego is to grasp. So we are unwilling to let go. To see what we actually are, there is nothing easier than seeing what we actually are. Because all we have to do is to look at ourselves. We have to turn our attention back within. Why we don't do so, or why we don't do so sufficiently, is because of the strength of our desires and attachments. How to weaken these desires and attachments? Only by persistent, patient practice of trying again and again and again to turn our attention within ever more keenly.
Yeah, I think that's very essential, and I really love when you emphasize that over and over again, just like Bhagavan did for 50 years. In every talk, you emphasize the same thing over and over again. That's
Because
amazing to hear
this
you.
is, this is the whole point of Bhagavan's teachings were entirely focused on practice.
Yeah.
Bhagavan did
And
teach.
personally, Michael, personally for me, it's a lot of reiteration, and I love it because that's where we fail every time. And I constantly tell myself when I fail, I would like to surrender to Bhagavan because Bhagavan himself did that in Arunachala Aksharamanamala to Arunachala, right? I mean,
Yeah,
the 57th verse, for example, which just got finished. எண்ணூறு யாவும் நிறையுள் not முன்னூறு உனையான் விண்ணூறு நன்னிட எண்ணலை இருமென்ற அருணாச்சலா. So
yeah,
he's saying this innumerable thoughts are invading me.
yeah,
When will I be able to see your expansive form over
yeah.
Arunachala? So in that itself, he has given the solution also. When you start seeing the expansive inner self, that's when all the thoughts cease.
Yes,
Very
yes,
simple.
yes,
So in the two-line verse, he has given the question and prayer as well as the solution.
yes,
Right?
yes, yes.
So I think that's the only way. Self-surrender, complementing self-inquiry,
Yeah, yeah.
self-inquiry,
Well,
result self-surrender.
but
That's the only way.
the two are inseparable. We cannot surrender ourselves without investigating ourselves.
Yeah. So as I said, this pictorial has its defects, and I said I started doing this only today, just to break myself away from the traditional thinking of waking being the parent state, and then dream and deep sleep being subservient to that. That's our traditional thinking, and that is why we say sleep is a state of ignorance. Whereas Bhagavan sees it completely the other way around. He says you seem to be hiding your own true nature and projecting what is not you as you, and that is a mistake you're doing. Wake up to that
Yeah,
mistake and remove that mistake completely. So I wanted to see if that can be shown pictorially. I will try to work on it and see if I can refine it further. Like you said, it has the flaw of the Maya showing up at the top as a black
yeah, yeah.
rectangular box, and smaller Maya rectangulars resulting in these incarnations. But then the mind will always want an explanation as to why am I coming back again and again as the same personality, right?
This is the problem. We want explanations for everything.
Exactly.
Bhagavan has given us explanations that are useful for turning us back within. But if we want, we could, that is, if you see the number of books on Advaita philosophy, so many the Prastanatraya, I mean, commentaries on them and commentaries on commentaries and commentaries on commentaries and so many other texts. You could fill a library with books on Advaita philosophy. But why so much explanation is necessary? Bhagavan focuses only on those explanations that will be useful. Other explanations, he simply brushes them aside because they're not necessary. So we have to be very careful to avoid the tendency to seek an explanation for everything. We should only look for explanations that will help us in our practice.
That's very true, Michael. I think majority of us, the seekers, is we are very clear and firm in our belief as to who we are. That's why the inclination and aptitude for self-inquiry is also not found to be sufficient in ourselves. And we keep asking, how do we do self-inquiry? I'm not getting it because we have no interest in self-inquiry. We are very clear about who self is. I'm very clear about me being Murthy and maintaining that identity forever, right? So if I'm very clear about the answer, why would I question? Who am I is a question which will interest me only if I don't know who I am. I am very clear about my ignorant belief. And that is part of the problem, right?
We are not ready to let go. We are not ready to surrender. We're not willing. It's the lack of willingness is the problem. But how to cultivate that willingness? Only by the practice of self-investigation.
Exactly, and that's why I think we see. I go to any god or any guru or any rishi. What will be my fundamental purpose of going? I want my problems to be resolved.
Yes.
So if the guru turns around and says, "You are the problem,"
exactly.
You are the problem. I'm not willing to accept it. I'm going there saying that okay, I'm so and so. I'm Murthy. This is what I do. This is what I did. I have this problem. Corona has come in. I'm stuck in a place. I'm not able to move. Please solve this problem for me. And they turn around and tell me, "You are not Murthy. Only Murthy has a problem, but you are not Murthy."
Yeah.
I believe that because that's not what I went there for, right? So mostly that is the problem for at least me. I can clearly understand. That is why I'm not able to progress in the path. Bhagavan is saying, first of all, I need to change the pattern of thinking I'm used to.
Yes, but Bhagavan once said, everyone who comes here says they have come only for mukti. But if I show a small sample of mukti, all the crows will fly away and I'll be left sitting here alone.
Correct. That's why he says, "Oor sutrum udam vidadu unnai kanda adangida unnalagai kaattu arunachala." So he says, give me a feel of that state. Once I get a feel of that state, why would I run behind all these worldly pleasures, right? Many a times I used to cry because that's exactly what we would want, right? I mean, show me a feel. Now I am struggling to understand this concept of self. I don't understand because I don't believe I'm in that state, right? Bhagavan keeps saying you are already in that state, but I don't believe. So my request, every seeker will want to say that, right? So Bhagavan has nicely sung that couplet, asking for that duty to be shown a little bit at least. So I can stop running behind all this, loafing around the world, worldly things.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. It is an excellent discussion, and the Guru Acharya Kovai, as I said earlier to you, has all the answers we need on various topics, and you are very good in bringing out those verses appropriately. Also, thank you very much for your time and knowledge, Michael. Is there anything else we need to discuss here? Are we done?
I think we've covered. I mean, we can go on discussing these things forever, but the main point is the whole problem is that we seem to have risen as ego. Because we seem to have risen as ego, we experience this waking and dream state. Put an end to the rising of ego, waking and dream will come to an end. What will then remain is sleep alone, but that sleep is our real state of pure awareness.
Yeah. See, another concern I used to feel in between is, the prayer is for cessation of thoughts.
Yes.
unfortunately, the ego and the mind level existence does not understand or fathom an existence without mind and thoughts.
Yes.
So we think that, okay, how can I possibly live in this world without mind and thoughts?
Yes.
So we really, even though Bhagavan says, wish for a state without the ego and work for it, turn inwards to get rid of
Yes.
the ego, we really are not wishing to be in that state, because we
No.
wonder, what am I going to happen without the mind? Am I going to become a vegetable sitting there,
Yeah.
not able to use my thoughts and mind to do things in a
Yeah.
reasonable way? Even if
Yeah.
I'm not aspiring to become the richest person, I need to still
Yeah.
live, right? So for that, I need mind, I need thoughts, I need to do things in time. So how can I possibly live without mind and thoughts? So we're not even wanting to pray for that state.
Yeah. Yeah. We need to be ready to radically change our outlook. Then only will be willing to begin to accept what Bhagavan has taught us.